Folks in television land, this is how I'd like to welcome you to it. Yeah, this is Liberia Public Radio online television. We have just arrived here once again. We want to sincerely apologize for the late arrival. There were a lot of sin here earlier on this morning when we witnessed the arrival of members of the majority bloc. A member from the pro-financial bloc, quote unquote, they are now being referred to as the minority bloc. We saw it, Honorable Yeke Wakolwa of Electoral District number 10, Mosrado County. He was seen making a lot of remarks. They have stood their ground, saying that today those government officials from the government spending entity that are expected here today to their budgets, to prevent their budgets to the budget hearing, they will be prevented. So you can see the huge presence of the Liberia National Police here.
Can go to the front, the step corridor. No, that's not.
Huge presence of LMP officers are here.
Some ballistic,
Good morning. So huge presence of police officers were just seen escorting one deputy ministers of government.
You wait.
The Deputy Minister Thomas Fala is now leaving along with a representative District 11 Richard Namwekon.
Representative Thomas Fala and of course
The speaker in the cabinet.
Good evening. I want to welcome our viewers and listeners across the globe. Thank you so much for joining. I'm Alfonso Zienso of the Liberia Public Radio and LPR-TV. We want to welcome our viewers across the globe. If this is your first time joining, this is LPR. Tonight, I'm going to be an all-star panelist here. A group of Liberians going to be speaking their mind, their thoughts on the political process in Liberia, holding all accountable. I am Alfonso Zienso, your host, who want to welcome our viewers and listeners across the globe. Thank you for joining us here. This is the sound that introduces the program, All Things Considered. Okay, let's get it rolling. Time is fast spent. Thank you so much for your time. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. I am Alfonso Z and Salt of the Liberia Public Radio and LPR-TV. We want to welcome our viewers and listeners across the globe. The most controversial building in recent time. Tonight, people who work there, opinion leaders, community leaders, and they were all here. Their voices of yesterday will that be of today. Just a Newman boycott Capitol building. It is a complete insurrection. And we're going to be discussing, and of course, you, our viewers, listeners, do not be left behind. Let's have this conversation. It's all about our country. We should not leave our country in the hands of the politicians. The political gamblings and the gamblings of our economy, the future of our country, the children, and all, it's all involved. So there's no much time that we continue to sit and wait. But how we got to this point here? How can the administrations of Joseph Newman boycott Capitol building turn out to be what it is right now? No control, complete breakdown of law and order. But he did say in the past, law and order are going to be the order of the day. So how come? Who should be here responsible? Well, the talking heads are knocking issues here and there, holding surrogates and surrounding. That should not be the case. Radio pundits and veterans journalists, they were all giving the soundbite. But now, knowing what we know now, with their thoughts of yesterday and today will be the same. What? One person who is more familiar with the Capitol bill, and not strange to this here, is a former president emeritus of the Union Liberian Association journalist based here, former State Broadcasting Corporation guy. He worked in these buildings. He come with the work of the legislature. We brought him in here. They get a place called Situation Room. Have they all helped to create this situation? We will find that out. We do not intend to be judgmental. Let me bring in my president emeritus, President Moses D. Sunday is standing by in the Delaware area, Valley of Delaware. Let me just bring him here, joining us here this evening, and the rest of the families will be here. Okay, Mr. President, good evening. Good to have you here. How are you today?
I'm okay. Thank you so much, Alfonso. It is indeed a pleasure to be here with you and the LPR and our family and our many people out there who are watching this podcast. You know, it's always pleasing to come to team up with you and contribute to a national, very, very important discussion of this, which has to do with the future of our country. You know, so thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, it's always good to have you here, good to get the expertise of those who experience and work in this building here. Here come Jerry Bacon. Why would you want to pour co-host? You're not my co-host. When something to is having you, you don't pour your title. You come on my program, you go pour that co-host. This is how you can create majority black. The majority black you created in Liberia, a year to be settled. You're trying to bring that here on LPR, correct?
The man's competing with you, right?
That's how they start chaos.
Yeah.
When his guy on, they were leaving out of the show. He come here on my program tonight, and then he were co-host.
Thank you.
Mr. Bacon, good evening. Welcome. I'm not hearing you. Mr. Bacon, are you there?
I'm not going to say anything. I'm here. I'm listening to you. Because I don't want to answer to anything about that. That's a
So, folks, just
I don't want to listen to anything about that. I'm not going to dignify anything about that. That's the whole thing.
Okay, I'm going to put a record in on that. Just for record, say to our audience, this guy, he is not my co-host. I don't know where he took that title from. Maybe the liberals are asking as another ploy to create chaos on my program, but that's not going to happen. I will let him to have that ceremonial title. I know he is LPR security analyst. I don't know where that co-host title came from. Maybe I I don't know. Okay, Mr. Bacon, good to have you. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening.
Okay.
Guess what is it? Sunny? Sunny?
Yeah, Moses.
Okay.
Good evening, Joey.
He's
Moses,
always
okay.
here, out here, also former president of the Association of Liberian Journalists, here, my president emeritus, and more or less, he reported for a very long time from Capitol, formerly with the State Broadcasting Corporation, situation room. He was one of those blowing the trumpet of Jose Newman Boyka. I want to see the trumpet of yesterday and that of today here. You know, it's interesting.
Yeah.
The media industry in the United States is infested with social washing. But let's see what happened today. Okay, Mr. President, good to have you here. As usual, it's always good to have this national conversation. Let's take a this here. I'm wondering whether the Capitol building you knew of yesterday is the same Capitol building. Let's take a look here. Courtesy of our congressional correspondent, James Tanukaba, based in the West African state of the Republic of Liberia.
Folks in television land, this is how I'd like to welcome you to it. Yeah, this is Liberia Public Radio online television. We have just arrived here once again. We want to sincerely apologize for the late arrival. There were a lot of sin here earlier on this morning when we witnessed the arrival of members of the majority bloc. A member from the pro-fanatic bloc, quote unquote, they are now being referred to.
Okay, we'll try to recap. And this is the chief architect of the plotters, those who led insurrections on Capitol Hill. Okay, guys, we saw all of this unfolding during the week, and apparently the hammer came down, and the conversation varies. Everybody have their own interpretation with respect to what happened, which is good, and but we need to give it a holistic approach. Let me start with you, President Emeritus Sandy. Let me start with you. Okay, another Washington is here. I will give them the opportunity. He is one of the close ally of the. It's good to have the Washingtons here, all in here tonight. Good to have them here. That's like all that. Okay, good to have you. Yeah. Let me start with you, President Sandy. Most good to have you here. Good evening to welcome as well. Look,
well, thank you.
You covered that. You covered that building. So let's lay the foundations of this conversation. When was the last time you saw this building to be what we have seen for quite a long while in history of our country, the Capitol building, the first branch of government?
Well, when I was at the Liberia Broadcasting System as legislative reporter, before being elevated to the position of editor-in-chief, I covered the national legislature. So like you said, that's almost 30 years ago when I was at that Capitol building. That place was a place that was highly respected by the people of Liberia. It was a sacred place. The tall grade that you see today, never. I did not witness that. I do remember in 1997 when President Charles Gangatila was in office. There was a senator from Gibi County, the late Bida Farm.
Bida Farm, yeah.
He was chair of the Senate Standing Committee on Ways, Means, and Finance. And I just want to give you a little bit of background information about how important the national legislature is. And at the time, I was there as a reporter. So the chair of the late farm was chair of the House Standing Committee, the Senate Standing Committee on Ways, Means, and Finance. He ran into problem with other senators. And the Senate Pro Tem, along with his colleagues, removed him as chair of the committee and replaced him with the then Bombing County Senator Mohammed Dugle. That did not go down well with the late Senator Obida Fan. It was on a Saturday. He mobilized some talks, and it went to the Senate wing of the National Legislature. They broke into the office of the chairman of Ways, Means, and Finance Committee. They broke into that office. They forcibly removed the furniture belonging to former Senator Mohammed Dugle, and he put his in there. It was on Tuesday. We went back to the legislature as legislative reporter, and this matter was introduced. Then the late Charles Bronskin was Senate Pro Tem. The senators instituted a probe, and it was established that the late Bidef Flan was in error. He violated the rules of the Senate. Predicated on that, he was expelled with immediacy. I did not see Tallgray. I did not see lawmakers conducting themselves as bandits I have seen in recent times. I did not see gangsterism. That place was a place of men. It was a place of law and order. I didn't see what is obtaining today. And let me make this self-disclosure. You said it earlier. In 2023, as a broadcaster, a former broadcaster, a social media podcaster, I did a comparative analysis of the candidates in the country. And then I derived at the point that President Joseph Boakai, then Kennedy, was the most competent, qualified person at the time based on available data. That was the right person, because we had a leadership void in the country. Mr. Weah wasn't measuring up. So then I came to the point that, hey, I would support the candidacy of Mr. Boakai because I think he comes with over 40 years leadership experience and other. And I, like several other Liberians, supported Mr. Boakai.
Let me hold you right.
We were okay.
Supported Mr. Boakai. Let me hold you right there. That is a very interesting point. We want to dwell on that point. Let's welcome analyst J. Victor now with the voice representation right here affording some LPR. So now we're good to have you here. Okay, gentlemen, the politics of today of recent have drawn our attention to the unprecedented happenings on Capitol Hill, the first branch of government. Never have I seen that even from the April tour and all of these transitional fireman council, 3 men, all of these calls on Akusomo. We have not seen that. So the most least guy that we all found on here who was the former president. So it's not a blame game, but we have to put it into perspective. Okay, let me bring in Moses Sandway. He also was our security analyst. Seeing what you saw there before I go to Mr. Barker, from the security perspective, what going through your mind to see the first branch of government, Capitol Hill, to be swarmed with both civilian, military, paramilitary personnel, lawmakers, journalists, everybody knocking here? What the heck is going on? What's going through your mind when you see that coming? It's like a dissolution of government coming into place.
Yeah, look, what I see today, is hard.
Just make a point quickly. I want to direct this to. Okay, there are two.
Oh, okay. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking to me.
Okay, let me go.
Yeah.
I don't know the same Delaware people.
So when you said Moses, I thought you were talking to me. Yeah. Go ahead.
Use your last name. Don't use Sandy and Moses. I think that would be.
Is that okay? Yeah, you can call me Sandy. Yeah, it makes it
another
easier.
guy here too. Let's see here. I want to know whether there's a change in voice and tone here with respect to
the both of us have the same, the first.
Oh, that same way. Yeah, you follow my friend and brother.
So, before I go into that, thanks for the show, Mr. Seward, and we thank you for doing your due diligence in trying to inform people objectively on some of these issues that our country are facing. But let me ask Moses, Mr. Sandy, a question. Mr. Sandy, you cover the legislative.
Can you ask my question? Answer my question before I ask you my question. You answer. You want to go ask me a question?
So,
this is how these politicians. When you see somebody, it's on purpose. When you see that, boom in your throat. So you want to see everything. It's not going to work with me here.
So I beg the other judges in this because I want to. It's a source of reference.
Yeah,
that I'm trying to acquire.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yes, sir.
It's a very easy question.
Moses, your mic is kind of not. Your mic is kind of low. I can't hear you that well.
Yeah, low. I'm not hearing you, Moses. You want to speak up a little bit?
Mr. Simway. No, I know that Mr. Simway. I think his mic. You need to work on his mic a little bit.
Yeah, speak up a little bit, Moses.
I will shut off the.
No, I think you're okay. You can come through. Yeah, you're coming through.
No, let you shut it up because
Okay.
I want no excuse here tonight.
Nobody
now, Claire?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead. That's better.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, that's better.
All right. It's clear. It's a little clear. I was using my.
Okay.
Okay. Mr. Sandy, I'll just look at.
Yeah. You're going bad again.
What was the tenure of office for at the time?
The speaker?
How many years were they supposed to serve?
For you're talking about the speaker, right?
The legislative body.
No, when I covered
the entire legislature, were they 6 years, 4 years, or 2 years?
Well, at the time I covered the legislature, the tenure of senators was 6 years. Representative was 4 years. 4 years. When I covered the legislature, that's like 30 years ago.
Hold on, I'm coming right back.
Okay. I just wanted to find out because I may have asked you. But so to go to your question, as far as security is concerned, some of the things, have contributed to such what we have is that the security presence in the Capitol is not that of surveillance, and it shouldn't be that of surveillance. The Capitol Police should have different and separate training to secure that building. And that should be their first and most responsibility to secure the building, because as Mr. Sandy spoke earlier, that building, from the time I knew it in the 60s, growing up, was a secret building. And for people to enter that fence were very, you had to do something serious before you could enter that building. Today, we see the Capitol building, we see the security. And I can tell you, my last experience is that when I went in, my first experience returning to Liberia after the conflict, is that I went in and I asked for an office, and they told me, oh, just go in the back and go up the stairs. And when I got there, security, my mindset was totally different, because you enter the atrium, no one asks you questions. You're not searched before you go in, whether you carry weapons or whatnot. And the police and the security over there, when they stood outside, and most of whom would not even ask you a question, who you here to see, what you're here for, or anything for that matter. So the security has not been present since my first visit in 2013. Recently, when I went there, it was the same thing. Police officers should not be guarding the gate. They always have some personnel at the front of the gate, and they'll come in as you come in because you're driving a fancy car or what kind of car, not a keke or a motorcycle. They just open up and let you in. They don't ask you questions. They don't check the roster to see if you have a meeting or anything for that matter. They'll let you in there. So the vulnerability of that building is very present.
Okay. So
when you go in there, and I think that create a total different branch of Capitol Police officers that can guard those buildings and be able to protect our legislative bodies.
all right.
That's my observation.
All right. I think the house seems to be a full house tonight. We want to keep it succinct so that we can allow everyone. We want to welcome our own Professor Taasese Labozangos, as a contributor here. I don't know what happens in Liberia since he came, but he's still on leave. So waiting to see what happens. Hopefully he come back here so he can tell his sooner side of the story. Let me go to Jerry back on here. Jerry back on, you also here. You a full-time career police officer trained. If you see all of these things that is going, so where is the gap? We want to come to how we got to this point, but let's just look at the safety aspect of that, because if I see that and I know for sure the demobilization process in Liberia was not comprehensive. I don't know how many of those people that bystanders and even our reporters, all of the people that go there, their life is at risk. Anybody can throw anything down there. People get bags, medical bags on their bag. Nobody check anything, and you see people just all in a sort of cultural area there. I'm not sure why somebody is not speaking to it. Mr. Bakon, let me just bring you in. Why not addressing this?
Let me add to what Mr. Simwe just said. Some of what we have been saying on the podcast for a very long time. The security in Liberia is bleak. Let's be honest. It is very chaotic, especially when it comes to the 3 or 4 important buildings on the Capitol Hill. The legislature body, the Temple of Justice, where the Chief Justice, the judiciary preside.
Yeah.
You got the National Police is right on that same compound. You got the Ministry of Information. Adjacent, the executive is right there. So that place is a secret place. It should be well protected. And somehow we are recommending. I mean, you can bear me here. We are recommended that we need a Capitol Police. The Capitol Police will be responsible to maintain. The National Police will give them the assistance if they need it, right? And that vacuum. I personally have spoken to some senators. Look, here is the situation. This is what's going to happen. I met a senator, I think about 2023, 2016 when I went to Liberia. At that time, the JFK workers were about to go on strike. And I met a senator. And I explained to them, there were 2 senators I met. And I explained to them, I said, look, yeah, this is what's going to happen. What is your plan tomorrow when patients are dying and the camera are going to be in your face and they're going to be asking you, this is your county, Moserado County. What are you going to say from national security perspective? And I put it in content. I gave my advice. Nothing happened. And I also recommended those that are living behind the Temple of Justice, let's buy the people out. They'll clear that whole area. They'll make it out of parking lot. Somebody can stay right in the house and cause chaos. Then with the Chief Justice office is right above there, you can be right in that place and see the Chief Justice office. So somehow we have made the appeal. Hopefully one day somebody will listen to us. And I said it last night. Somebody will listen to us.
So quickly here, like I said, the house is in full, so we want to make everybody to active.
Thank you. All right, thank you.
No, I just wanted to do a follow through. You say you talked to some, that was 2020, you said what, 2023?
No, I said 2016.
Or 2016. So what happens now? Who have you spoken? Have you spoken with anybody? You're a strong supporter of this government.
Of course, I talk to people. I talk to people. I stayed making my case. The relevancy of this, the Capitol Police, the relevancy of our security. And look what happened the other day. We suspended 4 EPS people because of soliciting what do you think? Feedback. So they have more than this.
All right. These guys are gonna struggle. Yeah, they're gonna struggle in my hand here tonight. Let me go to
Well, that's gonna struggle.
Look, Mr. Nangwe, this is commentary after the news. Gerald Bacon, I asked Moses number 2 to answer my questions. He flipped on the other side, decided to ask Moses number 1 question. All distraction because these people, they took a side. They yet to come back to us to tell us to say, hey, know what we know now, probably we haven't done this way. You see, Jerry Bacon is there doing damage control, trying to get things phase 23. We in 2020, 48, take him into 2020, 16. Come on. Look, Mr. Nangwe, where are we under this administration's 40 years of experience, manager, 8 years, 8 years? Let me get my mathematics correct. As vice president.
No, 12 years.
12 years. 12 years. I even swallowed the other one. 12 years as vice president. Closely in the proximity of the presidency. So we all thought, and hey, by this time, we're going to have a very great time. But here we are. The first branch of government has turned to like a Sabibo land, no law and order, people doing things on their own, and we have never heard anything coming out of the Oval Office. Let me get your reaction.
Well, thank you very much for having me. It's been a while. I'm glad to be back with you guys. So what is happening right now in Liberia is very unfortunate. There are a number of us who felt and still feel that what is happening could have been averted had cool heads actually prevailed to nip this in the bud, because this has been dragging for almost 2 months now, and it is being proceeding more like a slow motion collapse of the government. And I don't understand why this government, the president and his people don't see this happening. And none of us predicted that somebody could get hurt from this. And I think it's going week, or if not this week, there are people with knives at the Capitol, aside from state security operators with guns at the Capitol building. This has the potential to blow up into something even bigger if something is not done quickly. Personally, I feel we have an imperial presidency, in spite of the fact that we all, we talk about coordinating co-equal branches of government. We all know the president, he wields a lot of power. He could have done something to avert this thing. Look, he bears a certain amount of responsibility for this. He took the speaker from here and took him to the Vatican. When this thing happened, this is a coup. What is happening at the Capitol is a coup. We understand these guys have been gathering signatures as far back as April, May. They've never had the numbers. They don't still have the numbers. And so they waited for the speaker to leave the country and stage this coup in hopes that people were going to join them to go and get past the 49. They don't have that. And so the fact that this president invited the speaker when he left the country and this happened, I think he should see a certain amount of culpability in this and say, look, this is not going to happen on my watch, and call his people in, his rescue, lawmakers, whoever it is, and read in the Riot Act, as much as I may not like COFA, but the way you guys are going about it, I think you've tried, it is not working. let it go. Let
Okay.
it go. This has not happened, and so here we are. Now, I heard this week or so, he's finally making attempts to call, call the parties together. I think it's the damage really is far greater than the effort that he's putting in now. So it is very unfortunate. I have absolutely no idea how this is going to end. The Supreme Court finally came out with a decision. The Justice Minister came out and interpreted the Supreme Court decision. And now the Supreme Court said, no, what you're saying is not what we said. So now they've come out with a clarification. So now what is he going to do? The budget process is in limbo. The Senate has issued a statement of cooperation with the 43. Now, some of the senators are now saying, no, we want no part of it. So it is a complete chaos. And I don't think it is going to serve the purpose that this UP government intended for it.
UP government, we want to welcome our senior analyst, Terry Collins, as well. And like I said, we keep it short to the point. Dr. Toto, you listen to J. Victor Nambit, the White House, the executive mansions, is in chaos in his own word. But we're also seeing the what is unfolding is just unbelievable. Let me get your reactions. This breaks down a lot of art. If you were to serve as a presiding judge over this case for discussion purposes, who got us to this point?
Yeah, first of all, let me greet the fellow panelists on the show tonight, and also let me greet our audience out there. And listening to the previous speakers, especially the last one, Mr. Nangwe, and I gotta take it back, in terms of some of the accusation, trying to point on the president, I don't know. I don't know. When we have a system of government require separation of powers. The judiciary, the executive, and the legislatures. There's an issue that been going on within the legislature, and for the executive perspective, these people have the potential. Those are we call them men of honor, or how they call them, but they have the ability to resolve their own issue. And through that, it was not done the right way they're supposed to be done, and they went to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court issued or opinion on the matter, and it came back. The Justice Minister, who also interpret the opinion of the Supreme Court, and this is where we are. For me, I think the case is over. The country has to move on. The Senate already confirmed the decision of the Justice Minister and the majority black working. So we saw we've been on the show there. We've been saying that we saw there for a long time that at a certain point, even though what all of the chair is wrong for that over, but at a certain point he just had to give out and just give. And there's a been a practice. I wish they all been serving in that capacity in the house. So the country had to move on. So decisions are being taken. We just have to just live another time and then carry on the work of the people.
Okay, welcome, sister.
If I may, welcome, my brother. Just a few seconds. Dr. Tuto, I agree with you. I think we should all respect the separation of power in Liberia, but you cannot argue right now that the executive is not very clearly meddling in this matter. I mean, we see the beef of the security of this so-called speaker who was elected. You know that, right? You see when they go to the Capitol, you know who is protected by the national security. So I think the executive has his fingers on the scale. They're tipping the scale. So if they were staying out of it and saying, let them resolve it themselves, I would agree with you. But I don't think this is what is happening. Now,
Okay.
as to let's leave it and just go ahead. I think
this is what I want to dwell on. Hold on, Mr. Nambit. I want us to
Mr. So,
Yeah, I'm coming. I'll come to you, Mr. Cindy.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Hold on one second. Let me bring in Terry, and Sissy just going. Yeah, Sissy, let me just add a layer onto the argument of Dr. Toto. We should just leave it and move on. Is that how we're going to resolve issues, crises, potential problem that could get at other level? Is there a way that we can, something else that we can do to avoid it as a people, as a country, and even the House, the first branch of government? Or we just let it go now and get it under the rug? Colin.
Good evening, everybody. Before I answer that question, let me give 5 seconds to my brother to answer.
Sister, you're going to come in.
Oh, that was Collins. Okay, you call my name. I thought that was me. Sorry.
Yeah, I'll just welcome you too, and I'm going to come to you. Terry, go in, and I'll bring in Mr. Goya.
Well, I think good afternoon to the panel, to everybody present so far. Like I said yesterday, that I don't think it was in the place of the Justice Minister to give an opinion on the Supreme Court ruling. The Justice Minister could clarify here and there, make statements in regards to how he understands the ruling. But when he gave an opinion, I think that aggravated the Supreme Court because it's a separate branch of government, and they're supposed to be the one to interpret the law because they are the final arbiter of the law. So I think his position was he overreached. It could be even classified as ultra virus, according to what the Supreme Court said. But yes, he can clarify some things here and there, but his position put the government into a compromised state, wherein now everybody is seeing that one way or the other, the executive have been melting in the process, especially when you have a unity partisan who have now been elected as the Speaker of the House for the majority black. You cannot be having the Justice Minister stating that they quote unquote recognize the majority black, which according to the Constitution, that is not legitimate. That majority black stuff is not legitimate according to the Constitution. So how can you recognize a black that is not legally legitimized under the Constitution as a representative body? So I really don't understand it. Then you have the Senate to endorsing the process. So the whole thing looked like to say that it was a cahoot that was planned a long time ago, and we just seeing the head of the snake coming out.
So quickly before I go to Goya, is that how you feeling, you as a Liberian now? Is that a sort of sense you also getting now, knowing what?
Yeah, that's what I'm getting a feeling that everything was being done behind the scene to ups the guy.
Okay, all right. Let me bring in Sister. Sister, good evening. Welcome.
Yeah, everybody, thank you. Let me ask a question to Terry because he landed on there, and also to Victor. I hope you just use a minute because I just want to make sure that when I'm responding with facts. Did the both of you just allude that the Supreme Court has just issued another opinion? Can you help me to find that, because I'm on their website right now?
The Supreme Court issued a full opinion, more clarification.
When did they issue the more clarification?
I think that was yesterday or so.
That's not true.
That's not true.
So here's the thing.
Let me say something.
Hold on. Yes. Okay, go ahead.
I'm not saying that the Supreme Court issue an opinion. I'm not in agreement with.
Thank you, because you said it made the Supreme Court vex. So the Supreme Court accent the 6. And here's the thing. Hold on. That's all I needed. It's okay.
Okay, yeah, no problem. Go ahead.
We have to stop this alternative facts.
Yeah.
We have to stop it. Research is just easy. You go to the Supreme Court website. I'm on their website right now. The last opinion the Supreme Court issued was on December the 6th. They have not issued any other clarification. The thing in the media that's being passed around.
Opinion. It was a ruling. It was not an opinion.
The Supreme Court ruling is an opinion.
No, it's law. It's law. When the Supreme Course rules, it becomes the law of the country.
Right.
Go ahead.
Those are Supreme Court opinions. The point here is the last time the Supreme Court opined, ruled, issued a decree, whatever you want to call it, on this issue was on the 6th. There has been nothing besides that. The information that's running around on Facebook is a filing by Arthur Johnson. The Supreme Court has not said anything whatsoever. And I'm also here looking at the Liberian executive law. I think it's 1974 Liberian executive law. And it talks about in chapter 22.2c, it talks about the justice minister being the person in position to be able to advise the executive on rulings of the court. That is what the justice minister did. That is your law. The justice minister did not advise the judiciary. The justice minister said, here is how he understands the rulings of the Supreme Court. How is that not within the main purview?
So
look, I did not agree with the way OFA issue went on, but we have to be fair and we have to make sure that the information we're putting out here is actually legitimate information. Speaker Kofa, they didn't tie him, nobody tabe him to carry him to go share him with Pope. So you show him with the Pope and they move him, then go back and offering back. So they can put so he can go back. Yeah, let's stop that thing here, man.
Okay.
So Mr. So,
I like to speak to that because he called my name.
Mr. So,
let me speak to Cesar for a moment.
Mr. So,
Mr. So, if you could just allow me.
Hold on, guys. This is a very interesting conversation. Maybe we can take notes and kind of like pin on something. If there was something specific said, but I just want to kind of route it around for everybody to have the opportunity because I want us to be there enjoy we are and ANC respond. Then we're not doing it. I will come to you, Mr. Nabri, but Sandy.
Yes. Thank you again. Look, let me give a little bit of information about the current situation in the House of Representatives. This is what Article 49 of the Liberian Constitution says. It says the House of Representatives shall elect a speaker every 6 years. The speaker can be removed for a cause. And in the removal process, the House contains a membership of 73 persons. If the speaker is to be voted out, you need 2/3 of that number. That number represents what? Right. 49. That's what the law says. That's what the rules of the House is. And the rules and the Constitution also provides that if the speaker is to be removed, he or she will be given the due process. Have you seen any due process? Okay. The executive branch of the Liberian government is compromised. What is happening in the House is the creation of the president. It is being financed by the executive branch of government. It is failure to adhere to the rule of law, and Liberia cannot be a country of men.
Okay, let me hold you there, and I want to spin this down to everybody to give their own views and opinion. But I'm shocked hearing this from you.
Yes,
the situation wrong, and it's not just on the situation wrong. We have a similar situation wrong on our own here as well. Let's listen to this, whether it is equivalent to your argument, and I'll come back.
Things are getting out of hand in Liberia. I'm not too sure why, but from everything that.
Okay, things are getting out of hand. That's our own situation around the liberal here. But I want to come to you here. What are you saying? Is here?
Alfonso? everything I am saying, it is evidence based. The facts are all in the public domain. You have 3 coordinate branches of the Liberian government. The executive says it is not involved in the process, but you have a conflict, and you have political appointees supervised by the president appearing before a group of people that the Constitution consider their gathering, their functioning, their activities as unconstitutional. When the Supreme Court ruled, the last ruling, the Supreme Court said that any action taken by those people that did not conform to the dictates of Article 49 and Article 33 of the Constitution, those actions are considered ultra-viral, meaning that they exercise authority that doesn't fall within the scope of functioning.
All right, let's go down.
And you take the national budget. Let me just complete this. The executive takes the national budget and send it to a group of people that the Supreme Court has already considered as functioning illegally. That's what ultra-viral means. You exercise authority that you do not have. Everything that you did is considered illegal.
All
The
right.
Supreme Court. Yes, go ahead.
So, okay, you have made a point. Let me come down to back on, and like I said, let's keep it succinct so that we all can. So it becomes a kind of convoluted here. Mr. Bacon, let me just bring you in here. With this lighting wall deployed by the Supreme Court here, I mean, we all follow the process. We see how it looks like. People should be given the due process. That's one of the principal argument of COFA. Let me just ask you, and if you want to answer, that's fine. Do you think the due process was administered, or do you think the Supreme Court could have come with a plain language to put to a rest with this sort of guess game? This is what it means. This is what it means. Since it has gone to them, they are the former boss staff of a legal process in the country, such a sort of controversial and high political profile case here. Do you think the Supreme Court would have used any other terminologies to have put this to a rest and to avoid what is happening the last 2 days on Capitol Hill?
No, the Supreme Court. No, the Supreme Court has spoken, and that's what I'm not going to tell. I'm not going to dictate to the Supreme Court what to say and what not to say. That's their responsibility. That's why when we have issue, we go to the Supreme Court to justify our behavior and whatever they conduct, what we are arguing about. But here's the point here. Due process, do I agree with Mr. Okofa? No, long time. I told him. But here's the point. Will he give it due process? No. I said it on the show over and over and over again. That due process, the speaker, Mr. Okofa, I said it last night. You should have go up there. Bigger man, go up there and say, look, folks, go across the aisle. You are a certain speaker, for Christ's sake. You are a certain speaker. Go out there. Go across the aisle. You as a man. There's one thing I want to stretch out here. Mr. Nambe said it was a coup d'etat. Who infested the coup d'etat to overthrow the speaker? That means Mr. Baka told him to the Vatican, and when he went to the Vatican, that how can he go overthrow? No. He's a responsible man. He's a speaker. He had the opportunity to say, Mr. President, it's the president's prerogative to say, Mr. Speaker, Mr. State Senate, anybody within the House of Representatives or anybody within the preview of the president can invite them to say, I'm traveling, I want you to travel with me. So it's not a crime that Mr. Walker have committed to say, yes, I invited the speaker to go with me and happy behind his back. So let's get it straight. Mr. Sandy.
Yes.
He said, show me concrete evidence. These are all statements you are making. Yes. There's no evidence.
Let me
hold on, sir. Hold on. Give me the audience. Give me the audience.
Yes, go ahead.
Show me clear evidence
okay.
that you can exhibit on the show tonight.
Okay.
Mr. Boakai or the administration, like you say, all people went there to testify from the executive marshal. Show me one evidence, thread of evidence that the president was one of those who were conspired to undermine the speaker. Thank you.
So this is it.
Yeah, what I'm going to do, not to make other people like an observer that are United Nations.
Oh, okay.
Just please take note of that. His question to you, be given the opportunity for the good of the audience too. But let me just go to the.
That's what I've been doing. I've been taking notes.
Okay.
That's why
let me go to the other gentleman. Let me start up and calm down now. Mr. Moses, Moses number 2. I will just do that. Same with that. Yeah. And I'll just roll this question over here because that seems to be the whole bottleneck of this whole thing. Do you think the Supreme Court, now the decisions, this is just a commentary now we haven't, I'm not sure what they're going to be, any other decision will there be any explanation again for the Supreme Court, maybe based on what the other defense that we're still going to seek more clarification. Do you think the Supreme Court, their decision, was that enough to settle this dust?
Well,
the term used antivirus, and people look at the definition.
Ultravirus.
The ultravirus. Do you think that terminology could they have done anything, maybe to expand more on it to put this to a rest?
Well, I can tell you this. I think when I was on the show before, and who filed the document with the Supreme Court? It was Fanati Kofa who filed the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court responded to Fanati Kofa's complaint to the Supreme Court and used the ultravirus statement, which means that's where we are today. The Supreme Court is a total different branch of government. We all agree with that. The Article 49 states that they have the right to elect their leader, who is the speaker, but they also have the right to dismiss him as speaker. And that's the rule within their legislators. Now, only person who can preside over a plenary when it calls the section is the speaker who calls for that section. I remember, and I know you all remember, when Fanati Kofa came from his trip, he called a section. Only 29 persons showed up. He did not have a quorum of 39 to host the section, but he did call a section. It was that section where the attempt should have been made for these guys, for the majority black, to make their statement, but they did not. Let me go back to the fact that the president invited Fanati Kofa. Fanati Kofa, as speaker, should have knew that he's the second person in command to take over the country. You don't travel. I've not seen anywhere where the speaker travel with the president on vacation. When someone stated, I think someone stated that the executive is compromised, the whole country is compromised. Everyone, in my own estimation, everyone is compromised, including the House of Representatives, the judiciary, and the executive. It's not just the executive branch that is compromised. It's not just the executive. Everybody knows something and owes somebody a favor. That's what we call compromised. The same people that voted him in were the same people who notified him back in April and May that there was this movement to out him as speaker. As a leader, that's where leadership comes in. As a leader of a body, you want to be able to do your due diligence and get all the facts and see how you can avoid any action against you. But again, because they were all compromised, that's what happened. The Supreme Court and the Justice Minister was right because he's the chief advisor of the executive.
Okay.
And
so quickly,
that came out from the Supreme Court. 1 second, I'll be done in a few seconds. The document that came from the Supreme Court, the only thing the Justice Minister did was to notify the executive on the interpretation of that document. And then the executive took this order. Because if you're not going to support the minority bloc, that means that the immunities that come with that is no longer needed. That's the security for the speaker. And so this thing, that's what they were talking about when the court talked about antivirus and said go back to status quo. That means you need to go to your rule. You need a 49 to kick him out, but you also need 39 to have a section. And that's the rule.
37.
And the majority of already have the majority needed 39 or 37.
Okay, quickly here. Let me go quickly here.
Okay.
So
that number. But to put the top of vote, they needed 49. And now, just quick. Today I heard Maluba from District 3 say he's going to the back and going into the majority block.
Yeah. So quickly here, just to make sure, your argument here, from what I'm gathering here, that the speaker, I don't know whether a former speaker, whatever the situation is, a sort of confused situation in that country. In other words, you are saying Fanatic Kofa should have known better. If we all knew and we saw what all been coming out, they themselves alluded to that, this thing started immediately after this inauguration. He should have known better to have made sure to stay at his house. His backyard was also in order before traveling with the president. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, Fanatic was aware of it.
Okay.
And not only that he was aware of it, but when he got back to Liberia, the first show he went on, and the recordings out there, was Spoon. And he made the first allegation against the majority.
I mean, and
it was on Spoon.
Yeah, so I said that was that's something we had a conversation. I said that was a very first big mistake because, it was something
big
mistake. Okay, so Nambwe, let me come to Mr. Nambwe. Mr. Nambwe.
Yeah.
You listen to your colleagues on the ongoing discussions. Do you think this decision, the headache that we are having now, because some say, well, the Supreme Court's decision was plain, it was crystal clear, but do you think they could have more simplified it to a rest that could have allowed a proper interpretation than the interpretation now we are getting from the Ministry of Justice, and which, of course, the Attorney General proxy for the country. They are the chief prosecutor of the country. If anything, the country is having anything, they stay in defense of the country, and they're going to give ultimately legal advice to the country as to who committed felonies or whatever the case. But do you think the Supreme Court could have simplified it, or could have given instruction to say, hey, someone's right constitutional provision was violated, because that's their role to tell us to see whether the Constitution was violated. I'm not sure whether they were clear on that.
Well, yes, given the heightened state of affairs, the expectations and all of that, I think they could have been a little clearer. But again, the Supreme Court was not speaking to the nation. They were addressing the lawyers that represented the various parties. So they were speaking their legalese to their lawyer friends. And I'm sure they expected the colleagues to understand the language that they used. However, let me tell you real quickly. He came on and I made my comments. He came in. I do know the Supreme Court issued a decision on the 6th of December. I didn't say they issued a new decision. They issued a clarification. I understand the procedure is 3 days after the decision. The initial decision is like an executive summary.
When did they issue the clarification?
3 days. Yeah, let me finish, please. 3 days after the after they issued that decision, they released the final decision. They didn't feel the need to do that until the Justice Minister, and that's my fellow, Cardinal brother. I have a lot of love for him. The Justice Minister's advice was being sought by the Minister of State. He didn't ask him to call a press conference. So he called a press conference. Not only did he not do that, he misrepresented the entire decision. And now the Supreme Court felt compelled to make public something that they didn't want to do. So what they released
Come on.
over the past day or two was a full decision that was delivered on the 6th of December. And if you read the decision, it clearly contradicts what the Justice Minister said. It clearly said they are very clear in that decision.
Guys, let's.
Are you done, Susie? Are you
done
interrupting me?
So let he end his point. Then, if there's anything people.
So to come back to your question, do I think the Supreme Court should probably use a language much easier to understand by us, the lay people? Absolutely. No. But again, they were issuing the decision to the lawyers, and they expected the lawyers to help them interpret to us in the everyday language so that we could understand what it is. But they affirmed, just as my brother said, as Mr. Sandy and others said, they affirmed that Article 49 gives the speaker the responsibility to reside, the legal authority to reside at session. This is why they have elections. Otherwise, anybody could get up any day and lead is plenary.
Mr. Nambo, quickly here, is there contradiction from the 6 and the 3 days after? Is there contradictions in whatever two statements that you see that surface from the Supreme Court, or what? After the statement, the 3 days, the official publications of their decision, is there contradictions that contracts their first day 6 statement? Is that
no? The first day statement is a summary of the full decision. The 3 days afterwards, I understand then they issued the full decision. So what we have today and yesterday is the full decision, which is much clearer than the summary.
But it is not a clarification. It is still the same decision.
But look,
I didn't say a clarification.
You said they clarify. You kept saying they clarify.
Well, because this decision, if I said that, only because this current release is much clearer. You're trying to trip me up, and I'm not going to get tripped up. So this is much clearer if you read that.
Yeah,
Mr. Sandy, trust me, I want to come to you. Let's have the last 3 persons to speak on this as well, and that's Terry, Dr. Toto, and Cece here. So I'm just going to roll this over here. I mean, the reason we are having this because of what is unfolding. Dr. Toto.
Yeah.
Is there any other language in your mind, in your talk, that could put this to rest and all having this sort of conversation?
No, I mean, it's the Supreme Court already spoke on the issue. There's no other language that we can interpret here. You know, so we saw this coming. We saw this coming, even though when the Supreme Court ruling came on, the force of Kudadikova were celebrating the ruling in favor. And we want to show you also too. We said that for the way things look, in the favor of Kudadikova. By the end of the day, all bound down to Koro. Kudadikova doesn't have Koro to run his own house, and there where the problem is, he doesn't have the Koro. So even if the Supreme Court issue the antiviral in his favor, as was stated by Benjamin Moses Sedi, it bound down to Koro. He doesn't have the Koro to even move a mountain. So at the end of the day, as I said earlier, the country has to move on. He have to see reason. He has to honor man. Why you keep fighting? You can now have a Koro to call a special session, or even call a session. At the end of the day, those guys that have the Koro, they have the number. They keep carrying on the work of the country. And there where the problem is. So we said this some time ago. You know, it would be fair enough for Honorable Speaker Kofa to just resign instead of going through another bill or something. But at the end of the day, like Director said, they were talking about, you cannot accuse the executive in the situation. The executive have no role. I didn't think they play any major role in the thing to us or Kofa. Instead, they have been having the House of Representatives since April. They have been going on discussing the issue that they were planning to remove it. And you are not taking it serious. You are there traveling around. You are here in the U.S. attending programs and things there, even before you join the president or in room and things there. You are there very making. Why decision been going behind he thought that because maybe they were not getting 49 or they won't get it 43 to remove it. And this is where we are. He didn't really take it just serious. If your country take a job serious, it would not be to where we are today, to be frank.
Okay. So he not take his job serious. Terry.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. So it is very important for us to note that the Supreme Court did give further explanation on the ruling on the 6th, which did not land on either side as to favor one side from the other. So whether if they release it on yesterday, which were all over the media, and one person claiming victory as was the ruling, I think it is something that need to be looked at. But my statement still remains constant that the Justice Minister, first of all, the Justice Minister was not addressing the executive alone. The Justice Minister addressed the public, and the Justice Minister clearly stated that he was giving his opinion. And there are, I don't know how many sheet opinion he wrote towards the ruling. And my position, from what I have been reading, the Justice Minister cannot give an opinion on Supreme Court ruling. That is what I have been studying. I have been reading.
Where? Who do you got?
I'm coming, right? You will have your day in court. The Justice Minister can give clarification on how he thinks about the Supreme Court's ruling, but he cannot give an opinion on the Supreme Court's opinion.
What?
Go and make a research about it. So he overstepped his bound, and based upon his opinion, he legitimized the majority black. And all along, people who've been listening to me have been talking that the majority black have been operating in the confines of the law. They have been doing some things in the confines of the law, even though they did some things that were not right. But in this regard, from what I have been studying and inquiring from other legal luminaries, the Justice Minister was in error because he represents the legal aspect of the government and the people, between the government and the people. So as is it?
Yeah, Robert, guys. Guys,
any statement,
his point before. Yeah.
Any statement he makes in this regard is tantamount to cause chaos in the country. Like what's happening now, right? Okay. If what his name? If Mr. Kufa decide to create some kind of a insurrection, getting people on the street to say, "Oh, the government," because and let me show you some signs that prove that the government hand were in this thing. Or
oh my goodness.
Oh yeah, I support Joseph Boga, Mr. Moses.
Let him make.
I support Joseph Boga 100%, and I will still support him unto the end. But there are so many signs that the president has in it. How will the Senate conclude and agree to a majority black on the basis of a Justice Minister position statement to the government, to the executive, when the executive is a separate branch of government to the Senate? You don't see the conflict, you don't see the people overlapping function here. The Senate is a separate branch of government all by itself. So how would the Senate say, okay, the ruling came all long ago, but the Senate is saying that with all the ruling we don't understand it. Only the one that the Justice Minister interpret is the one we understand. So on the basis of what the Justice Minister interpret, we now recognize the majority black and recognize Richard Kuhn as the speaker. Okay, thereby nullifying the original speaker who had been inducted into office by law. How does that make sense to you? Then you're trying to tell me that. So you're trying to tell me that the Supreme Court said and acknowledged in the
guys.
I didn't know when you keep interrupting him. Everything you already got to start all over.
So
No,
yeah,
that-
the
don't
interruption.
start.
Hello. The interruption to that way did and like I said, let's keep it to the point. Terry, just 30-second wrap up. Let me go.
So these guys are telling me on the show tonight that the Supreme Court ruling legitimized the majority black. That's what they're trying to tell me. So I wanted to explain it. They explained to me that the Supreme Court ruling legitimized the majority black, with the speaker being Richard Kuhn.
All right, thank you so much. So I'm going to say now, but we can do ourselves a favor because we are in a huge number. This is a very much important thing.
I thought you coming to me, Alfonso. Since spoke.
No, after that's what I'm not changing the rules. The second round, has not yet. So I'm going to go to him. But if we can keep our thoughts over on 2 minutes, that would be good. That would everybody else. Okay, so Sese, I saw you moving here and there.
I'm getting intellectual whiplash. You know how when you get in an accident, you go back and forth like this. That's what happening. Look, there are two things happening here. And one of them is political and one is legal. And we keep mixing the both of them. The legal aspect of it, my guy that I supported the last time, Councilor Gonglo, has a different interpretation of the understanding of the Supreme Court ruling. Our laws requires that the executive will enforce the rulings of the judiciary. In order for the executive to enforce the ruling of the judiciary, they must understand it. There is nothing in our laws that say the justice minister cannot call a press conference to talk about his understanding of a ruling of the courts. There's nowhere.
Even erroneously?
Do what?
Even erroneously?
Again, that is your interpretation. Last time I checked, you're a chemist, not a lawyer. So I would not lean on you for that.
Are you a lawyer? Are you a lawyer?
But that's why I'm not saying he was right or wrong.
No, but your statement implies that you are.
No. You see,
you are not.
That is a false deduction, and that is how you feel logic. Because my statement has not implied anything. In order for something to imply, there has to be an if and then statement. That is just simple logic. So your deduction is wrong because you are building it on a foundation that is porous. So let's leave that. I have not come here to say that I am a lawyer, and I have not said that legally the Supreme Court or this is when I said that the justice minister is, and I read that I told you, I cited to you, unlike you, Mr. Sandy, who's doing the tabloid stuff where you just saying the people informed, you can't give proof. I told you go to the laws. I told you where in the law to go that give the justice minister the right to advise the executive on the rulings of the court. And that is what the justice minister did. And he was in his reason to have done that.
It wasn't an opinion.
Go read the law, Terry. The thing when I pretend that I Wikipedia thing.
Yeah,
so, and then I'm on the Supreme Court website. For y'all to say that there is a clarification from the Supreme Court, a clarification suggests that there was one thing. You know, now Mr. I'm talking to Mr. I'm not talking to Mr. because Collins came by and said there's a clarification. The Supreme Court issued one, and only one, nothing else. So there has not been any clarification whatsoever. It is the one ruling. The Supreme Court has not spoken since then. So it is the same ruling in there. So for me, the issue of the legal aspect of this, that the justice minister was in error to have a press conference or to advise the executive, I don't understand where that's coming from. The second piece is, I hope Terry understands that there is nowhere in the Senate hearing that said that they were advised by the justice minister, because the justice minister does not provide a legal opinion to the Senate. He did not. I watched the entire proceeding.
The reference his interpretation.
The reference, but he did not advise them.
Which was a misleading interpretation.
You have to both analysis in that way. I mean, let's be objective. You're being a fanatic.
Mr. Sandy. I'm surprised that you have objectivity when you sat here and said that the president, the executive, funded the removal of the speaker when you cannot provide any proof. I am shocked.
I will. I will provide it fast.
I did not know that you knew that word, Mr. Sandy.
I will provide it fast.
Yeah. And spill total lies and ask for somebody to be objective. I didn't know you knew that word. So
Okay.
let me learn, Mr. Sandy. You are speaking.
Let
I
me
was
make this
quiet. Let
point.
me
I want
learn.
to get to the next thing.
Let me learn. So if people are here saying that the Unity Party and the executive engineer this coup, let me ask a question. In the House of Representatives, you have about 34% of the members are seditions. 34% are seditions. And there are only 11 members, so you got 25 to 11. 11 members of the Unity Party. And you are sitting here and telling us that the executive, the sleeping man, where got battery in your heart, where sleeping Poyon, was able to engineer with just 11 people to get 25 people to remove a speaker who went to pray the Holy Rosary.
But that is a political aspect he's talking about.
There's president there,
He's
though.
talking about the legal aspect.
You see,
Okay,
there is president there.
Gentlemen,
you and I know that we're not assuming, we're not holding all things constant here. The president was with a different leadership. You can't take human beings that are acting differently and say, oh,
no. I'm talking about with this.
Okay, let me go to. Okay, guys.
That's how we do research. And you
All
know
right.
that you're trying to.
Gentlemen, please hold on one
second.
second.
Because the group of human did something, so the next group of human will do that.
President is with this president. I'm not talking about president.
What's the president?
Hold on one second.
You don't remember the 4,500 down?
He removed somebody?
Yes.
Somebody?
You don't remember the 4,500?
Who did he remove? Who did he remove?
From where? From where?
Who did he remove? Who did he remove? Who did he remove?
On the same speaker, this very speaker we're speaking
about.
about.
You still talking about the exact same thing? So the speaker been removed twice? Is that what you're telling me?
Mr. Nambe, we can say simply, hold on, guys. We can. We all know this platform here. If we are in a huge number, it will be a disservice if we all start thinking, talking. And like I said, take a note. I mean, we shouldn't be like the other side of the world. This is LPR. The liberals, good evening, welcome. I want to go to a second.
Good evening, Mr. So. Thank you for having me. I am here to cool things down. I am here to straighten up what's happening here tonight. I am also here to be the counterweight of any kinds of ridiculous statement that are going to be attributed to anything to the President of the Republic of Liberia. We're here tonight.
Okay.
Let's go ahead.
Okay, Mr. Sandy, we have one of our analysts on the line. I can't go ahead. 1 minute, please. I mean, we have a credit fee here. Let's hear you.
Thank you, Brother Sonia. I'd like to say hi to the panelists. Look, you know, when people come on the show and act like what people been saying from day one is not real, that Joseph Boakai is a man of battle, that he got this, he capable of doing this. I think they're doing disservice. From the very election of President of Speaker Kofa, from the ruling camp at the time said they were trying to get rid of Speaker Kofa. At the time he was not Speaker, for not being Speaker. Even when you were elected, the very week you were elected, Yekekoloba came over and said they were dishing out 4,500 to get Speaker out of the position. And then Sese will sit on his platform and say, no, look, the court ruling came down, and the reason why the Supreme Court had to make explicit information on the ruling, it was because the Justice Minister went and misinformed the nation about the Supreme Court ruling. And it's simple. When I put this stuff in the chat room today, or I think yesterday, everybody says they came out and said, "Oh, that CDC propaganda." No, he put the Supreme Court.
I said that. And I said it.
Out there so we can understand.
Yeah, that was not even the court
in the Constitution that they don't comprehend. When the Supreme Court referenced Article 49 and 33, it said it was in favor of the majority group. And then my brother Tony King said nobody, it was not in favor of nobody, the judge gave a broad statement. No, you got a real comprehension. There's one speaker every 6 years. Once every 6 years, the representative elect a speaker, the House elect a speaker, and that speaker is the presiding officer.
Okay.
That speaker today, but not Kofa.
All right. Thank you so much.
Somewhere else.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you. Let me have the liberal. I believe you've been following the conversation. I need not to generate any question here. You came here. You already want to start forcing. Your guy came, looted our praise by declaring himself co-host when he not co-host to me. So I believe based on that, you have come to kind of like of here. But I want to make sure because very great show here tonight. So perhaps you have had a conversation behind the thing. But let me just bring you in here. Things are getting bad in Liberia every day. Are things still getting bad? Let me hear you.
Thank you, Mr. So. Good evening, fellow panelists. It's good to be here again. I'm sorry that I came in late. But look, Mr. So, let me give you this here. What is happening in Liberia right now, it is not good for our country, from my perspective now. It is not good for the soul of the country. This is one of the things that I do enjoy about Liberians and Liberians. Every one of us, in fact, when I was growing up, when I go to Ivory Coast, the people think every Liberian is a lawyer. And this is what we do that perhaps do some disservice to the legal professional themselves. We are not a lawyer. Those who are lawyers are the ones that are called to speak on the law. Hey, who here that will talk to me about engineering? Who? I'm the best because I'm an engineer. Say, put your hand down. I'm talking about Dr. Toto, put your hand down. I'm talking about engineering.
There are several branches of engineer. You're not.
I don't care. I don't care what branch. I'm still talking. You see, this is what y'all do. Y'all the how do you call it? The other class of school. That's what y'all do. Your train of thought and your logic is so faulty. I'm still talking. Now you get me room now to welcome myself out of this mess I found myself in.
I can tell you about electrical
But you see,
engineering.
this is what you're doing a serious look. I'm a civil engineer, Mr. So. I cannot come here and say I pretend to be a lawyer. I can only voice my opinion. I can only voice what I think. But most of these people that are speaking as though they're lawyer, and then when you question them about their logic and why, you say, well, because this is the law. What law? You know law? You know, practice law before? You judge it myself. Speak for yourself. Now, secondly, Mr. So, what is happening in the country about Speaker Flanty Kofa? I was on here last night. I asked him to even resign. This thing gonna come back and hurt Unity Party big time. Because Speaker Kofa came to this position, not with envious, not with jealousy or whatsoever. He came in and was willing to work with his president to get the president agenda to go through. What has he done wrong that people will go after him in such a way? It is very confusing to many Liberians. And so when we're discussing it, let us don't try to pretend that we know when we know we don't know. Mr. So, okay. Thank you.
All right. I'm going to go to the second phase, but everybody at Liberty Notary, you have confirmation. Hold your peace. When I come to you to the second phase, then you can bring your information. And again, like the house, you see the house is really full tonight, which is great. So let's use a reasonable time to respond. I have one of the questions that is yet to be asked, maybe have been asked, and I want to get your view on it in a very honest fashion. Although you're supported people. I am the only independent voice here. Should be angry, should get
you uncover sedition. What are you talking about? You uncover sedition. What are you talking about? You don't support anybody. Right. You uncover sedition.
You are interrupting. If I support
sorry. Quiet. Okay,
then I mean, we're saying things are getting bad here. So, Sunday and gentlemen, you will respond. But here is the question. The questions of this so-called majority here. I want to know whether they have successfully impeached the speaker as required by law, and that law say the due process and the vote of 40 man. Has that taken place?
So you want me to come in, right?
Yes, how are you?
Let me provide some of the legal basis here, because I see some of our colleagues acting on emotions. As educated people, when we speak, there got to be some legal basis for that. I'm not a lawyer. I don't pretend to be one, but I am indeed an educated Liberian like any of you. And every one of us here have the capability to read and comprehend.
Thank you.
Before the ruling, many of you will follow the situation in the house. When Fonati and his people went to the Supreme Court, the Supreme Court issued a prohibition stating return to status quo ante, meaning that look, go back to whatever structure that you had in place. Meaning that Fonati Kofa is still Speaker, Republic of Liberia. That's what anti means. Go back to whatever structure that you had in place. Prior to the issuance of that prohibition on November the 24th, that was when Richard Kuhn was elected. That was when the quote-unquote majority black, which is not recognized in the Constitution. You read the Constitution outside, in and out. You read the rules of the House of Representatives. There's nothing called majority black. These renegade lawmakers started the suspension of colleagues, removal of committee heads, and then the Supreme Court came with this prohibition. Go back to status quo ante. Meaning, go back to whatever structure you had in place. After a probe of the matter, on December the 6th, the Supreme Court stated that whatever that was done, whatever actions that was taken that did not conform to Article 49 and 33 of the Liberian Constitution is considered ultra viral. Meaning whatever authority that you exercise there that did not conform to these laws were beyond your scope of authority.
Okay.
So what else do you want the Supreme Court to say? That is in plain English, Mr. So the guys are talking about this and that. So let me quickly provide some of the reason why I say the executive is compromised. When the issues were going on, if you say you are neutral, all political appointees are supervisors of the president. You cannot have Mo Ali from Water and Sewer, the Minister of Transport, Salif Tyler, the Minister of Internal Affairs appearing before the quote-unquote majority black when you say you are neutral. When you do that, you are giving what validation to a group of renegades. That's one. Who is footing the cost?
Okay, let's wrap up with this. I asked a question here.
Yeah, so
the law requires, in 30 seconds, if you can respond.
Answer
I was asking all of it. Is the speaker successfully been impeached?
Constitutionally, the speaker has not been removed because everything that they did is considered what? Illegal. He has not been given due process. An accusation is not a conviction.
Okay, let's order that. Let's see.
The law provides that he be given due process, and that's the principle of what? That's the fairness doctrines in the legal profession. When Moses Seni is accused, he's given the opportunity to face his accusers. That's not happy. So legally, Fonati Kofa is still Speaker of the Republic of Liberia.
All right, so let me grow it out to Mr. Bakon, and if there are other things you want to add on, but I want you to speak specifically to my question, because at the end of the day, history needs to recall it, because when I saw that intra-party issue with Margate and removing Calvin McCarthy, we saw people arguing, no, how many votes? I think 2 to 3. That is my
due process varies from place to place. Thank you.
Okay, and this is what politicians do. You see, his broom was what the whole straw was rolled out. He sought political attention. Now he's telling me we must have one lawyer and we must have another lawyer.
Not different laws. Due process varies from place to place.
You see, these guys.
Due process is due process, my man. Due process is a fairness doctrine. Due process is due process.
That would be a very simplistic understanding.
let me ask my question. All of you here, Mr. Sandy, you part of this. You one of those who get
I created just a black guy.
All
Yes.
of you here, all of you. I am the only person the liberal wants to put me in his calabash. I'm not going to go there. But Mr. Bacon, let me just ask you, because the reason I'm asking this, we will continue to have this conversation. History must record it. Speaker of MP, yes. I wonder what was the vote. I didn't see any vote.
No.
Because the law say it requires what? 49.
Yes.
Right? And in order to be removed, we got to see who for, who against. Unfortunately, that did not happen.
No.
So should we say the speaker or what? He was just, so what sort of method that was used? So is it true that the Supreme Court is saying this sort of something was not done, fully done? And here we are now, the guy coming, putting a left hand up, I do solemnly swear, and all of that now. So I'm kind of a little bit confused, Jerry Bacon. So if you want to speak to that, and if any other thing that you jotted down you want to talk to, go ahead quickly before I go to the next person.
But yes, the thing. My dear brother Terry said the Minister of Justice, she's the chief law enforcement officer of the Republic of Liberia. Let me establish that. He also is an advisory to the President of the Republic of Liberia, even though there's neutrality as a Minister of Justice, because he also had a responsibility. If the President does anything wrong, he can press charges against the President. So let's establish that. So he played a dual significant role in our country, in our constitution.
Correction. The Justice Minister is the Justice Minister of the Republic of Liberia. He's not the advisor of the President. The President has a legal advisor.
Listen,
he's Attorney General, and he can be legal advisor to the President on legal matters.
And he is the Justice Minister of the Republic of Liberia.
Yes, that's why we refer to him as the Attorney General.
So let's move over. You see,
okay, so that's my point. Thank you. So please. So that's it. But the Supreme Court is an intelligent body by itself, and they cannot interfere. They all we have to do is like we go to them and ask them for direction, and they send it back to the lower house and say, look, you people go and sort it out. This is what it is. You have your own rules to govern your. They have their own rules. The House of Representatives, they have their own rules to govern them. They establish it. So let's establish that. When it comes to the removing of the speaker, we have moral obligation as a human being and also as a person. And due process with the speaker, I always said no on the show. I said it over and over again with the due process when it comes to the speaker. The speaker himself, he also had a moral obligation as a human being to say, you know what, these are the decisions I'm going to make in the interest of the country, or as a person, I'm still going to fight the battle and say, this is what will happen. So we all have a moral obligation. And in conclusion, the Supreme Court will come out with a decision. It doesn't mean we all have to be happy what the Supreme Court is going to say. Let's look at you myself in the United States. Look, I go versus Joe Bush. Agor went to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court said Agor he lost. Morally, he could have still go and side people, but he said, you know what, for the peace of the country, the Supreme Court has spoken. So we have to respect the law rather than to exacerbate the thing, or the person do this one, the other person do the one. The Supreme Court has spoken, and let Liberian people, we heed to this thing and move on with our life. The country is so fragile as it is right now. So let us do. And the speaker is a third person in power to succeed whatever happened to the president. We hope not, but he's a third person. So he had a moral obligation as well.
Thank you so much. Let me come to Mr. Sainway down there, security guy. Believe for the most part, they believe in evidence and not circumstantial. Sometimes they factor in, but at the end of the day, they want to produce a living witness in order to get. So, Mr. Sainway, and if you want to add to whatever any of your colleagues said, I was asking you, was the speaker successfully impinged as required by law to get that vote of 49 for us to record in our history. So how are we going to say, how will we classify that? So how will you tell the story to your children of the 55th speaker? How will you explain that? How the speaker was removed? Majority black?
Well, in response to your question, Mr. I would say this: the majority, nor the minority, did their due diligence. Number one. Besides, what happened is that any section should have been called by the speaker. The speaker himself called section, and he failed to meet the quorum. The quorum to proceed with the sections. He called section twice, and including yesterday morning, when only 23 persons show up. And later on, he said it was 25. And then he said there were 5 people he couldn't tell where they were. And he attempted to do that yesterday, based on the fact that they were looking to call a section, and they had gone out because we heard in the grapevine that they had campaigned, and that most of the people were going to go to the section. Only to find out only 23 persons went, so he couldn't proceed. Whereas the majority black had 51. So the vote needed to be involved with all 73 of the legislators to be carried out. But the speaker failed to do his due diligence in representing the Liberian people to convince his colleagues to come together so that that vote can be cast. So to tell you if there was a vote, but we also know, absence of that, the majority black had the vote required, and that they collected signatures.
Was that exhibited?
Wait a minute. Yes.
The chief clerk should be the one to do the recording. Was that exhibited for us to see on camera?
And we got yet to see it. So on Thursday, which is tomorrow, is when both sections, are supposed to get together. But with the fire in the building now, I'm not sure if that's going to happen. But, and that's my response to you. To say that the actual vote was taken, I can't allude to that. I can't say yes, it happened, because I have not seen it. But we know.
Many didn't happen.
We can read what's going on. Number 2 is that I think the first time I came out, you were talking about security. I'm not sure if we're going to have time to talk about that, or we're going to talk about it another time. But our country is very vulnerable when it comes to security. And a statement came from the UN since 2011, from the UN, talking about Liberia's inability to secure its borders and to take care of its citizens. And that report from the UN stays to this date. So they need to look into that, and back on myself, and there are a few other people that we know around the country who can speak to that of security. If we don't do that, it's they're gonna hinder what's going on in that. So that's a serious matter.
Terry,
that's my import.
Terry.
Yes, sir.
Terry, if your daughter or your son was to ask, "Oh, Papa, I heard say the Speaker of the Republic of Liberia was impeached," how could you possibly? What could be the possible explanation? Because the children here, they kind of they like to go behind the borderline. What was there any vote count? What would you say? Majority black, minority black?
I would say just how Sibilia Sifa said it, that if the Supreme Court did not rule that the majority black were in error, who am I to say they were? That is why we argue on the show, right? In my view, I still recognize Speaker Kofa to be the legitimate speaker. Why? Because from what I saw in the House going on when they were removing him, even though Article 49 said two-third majority with a resolution, but what I saw, the way they removed him did not look correct to me. Even though I'm not a lawyer, neither am I a legal luminary. What I watched, what they were doing as they removed him, did not look authentic to me. So based upon that, I made a conclusion that the Speaker Kofa have not yet officially been removed. And this is what baffled me when my friends on the network will be saying, you know, that it is right for the Justice Minister to come on publicly to acknowledge and to give an opinion authorizing and instructing that the government can do business and recognize the majority black, followed by the Senate. And I just wanted to put in this information from Front Page Magazine. It says here that in a surprise move on Tuesday, Senate Pro Tempore Yombi Kangalore announced that the Senate had resolved to uphold Minister Stewart interpretation of the constitutional legitimacy of the House majority black. Stewart's opinion issued at the Ministry of Information press conference declared that the majority black of the House of Representatives had the constitutional authority to conduct business, stating that their action did not contravene any provision of the Liberian Constitution. My reading of the court's opinion and analysis dictates that the majority black of the House of Representatives met the constitutional requirement explicated by the court to hold sessions and to take decisions consistent with the law of the country, Stewart said. He added, the budgetary process can be legally carried out by the majority black, provided they meet the standards laid out by the constitutions, by the Supreme Court's opinion. So in my regard, this is not just an ordinary statement. You understand? And that is where I believe that the government, the executive overlapped her function. And that is my point tonight.
All right, that is my point tonight. So, J. Victor Namwe. Mr. Namwe?
You want me to go on the same question, whether the speaker has been impeached or?
Yeah, and then you can react to any of the comments coming from, if you have any second thought from any of your colleagues here. Whether the speaker was successfully impeached, as required by law, due process, the vote of 49.
All right. So the speaker has not been impeached. Otherwise, you know, there won't be these calls from the executive and everybody else for him to resign. I mean, how do you impeach somebody and ask them to resign? It doesn't make sense. But I'll tell you this, you know, when Mr. Senni was talking, to demonstrate how the executive has been compromised, I agree with everything he said. He also forgot to mention when the Supreme Court issued the order for the parties to return to status quo ante.
Yeah.
That meant the Justice Ministry or the enforcement arm of the government should have stopped the 43 from doing all the nonsense they were doing. All of that meant they should revert to where they were initially. They refused to do that. The executive refused to do that. But yet, we saw them finally trying to enforce this order based on the interpretation from the justice.
Please repeat that again. I didn't get you clear.
So why do you think the Ministry of Justice, because initially they said they were not going to interfere, they're going to do anything.
Exactly.
Why the Ministry of Justice did not interpret, since they more or less defense team for the government, they speak for the government when it comes to legal thing, why the Ministry of Justice did not come with the full interpretations of status quo ante?
Beats my imagination. It is all part of what we are saying, that they haven't been, I don't want to say neutral, but they are a part. They are a party in this matter, Mr. Sigler.
They are.
What I said earlier was the justice in chambers, basic, prior to the full bench, had issued a stay order on all of the goings and comings of at the legislature to everyone. To hold up, go back to where they were prior to November 17th, October 17th. Return back to status quo ante. Yeah. But the 43 were meeting, they were nominating committees, they were electing speakers. They defied that order. But the executive, which is supposed to enforce the order, refused to enforce that order. They did nothing. They did nothing. So let me tell you my skin in this, Mr. So. Look, I'm not a fan of Kofas. I'll be honest with you. I don't even know the man. I only met him when he came here at the last Europe program. But there is something that I think is fundamentally wrong with what is going on at the legislature. You know, you ask a question of, what do you say to my children? I want to be able to say that to my children, my children's children, my children's children's children. That a few good people did not allow an illegal process to take hold. What the guys are doing at the legislature is wrong. If they want to remove the speaker, it is their prerogative. Nobody is stopping them. They should remove him for cause. But why is it they're having so much difficulty doing it after it's been prescribed by the law? Why? And all of us are saying here, you know what? Yeah, and I get the argument my friends and others are making. The speaker has clearly lost the confidence of his colleagues. I get that. I don't think he's even going to be able to govern again, even if he were, reinstated. But there is a principle that the 43 is violating. They are unconstitutionally trying to remove the speaker, and that is a coup. That is a coup. There is a process. You go on the floor, you do a resolution, you take your votes, and boom, you remove your speaker. If they have the numbers, that is what they should do. They didn't have the numbers on October 17 when Fala went to open the doors and Marvin.
He didn't have the number 2. The speaker does not have the number 2.
The speaker doesn't have the number 2. I acknowledge that.
Yeah, so that's what I call it an impasse.
This is where in my opening I said, I thought
guys, can you finish so that we're wrapping up now? Let him finish so that all folks
it is to call the section for the removal of the speaker.
I'm sorry?
Whose responsibility it is to call a section for a hearing to remove the speaker?
So, you want me to answer that?
I think he's asking.
You want me to answer that, Mr. So?
It is a speaker.
Yeah,
the speaker has
failed to do that.
Yeah, no, Mr. Singh.
What do you mean he failed to do that?
Let me just answer your question. The Constitution, Article 49, 33, recognize the speaker as the presiding officer.
Okay.
And when the lawmakers meet, in order to have a quorum, you must have what? Simple majority, meaning 37.
Yes.
Because you got 73 persons in there, right?
Yes.
So when they assemble, when the speaker is present, the speaker presides.
Okay.
If the speaker is absent, the speaker dedicates that responsibility to the deputy speaker.
And don't forget, Mr. Cindy, for 2 of those sessions, Larry God presided.
Yes.
Larry God is no deputy speaker.
Okay, guys,
So can we come also to?
yeah, so let number end his point.
No, I'll end quickly because I know my colleague want to come in. So, but
go ahead.
So basically, what I'm saying, Mr. So and my dear colleagues, I understand the speaker may have lost the confidence of his colleagues, and he could be removed if they do it right.
Right.
But let them go to the chamber, put their vote on the floor, and remove the speaker. That's all. That's all.
This is how it goes. All they need to do, Mr. Salt, let me just simplify this. Mr. Salt, quickly, let me just simplify this. Let me just simplify this for Mr. Singh.
So we're not going to have.
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Okay, go ahead.
We had a lawyer here. We'll see to the lawyer.
Let me see Dr. Toto.
Yeah.
Thank you. One good thing I enjoyed the show tonight, where somebody going. That since they try to order enemy robbing a boy here. I mean, that go away.
I'll make a note here that I thought that was dread like tonight.
Why you were by here so they like and reflect in your eyes and with
But get it back, just to share so that just or they follow just email us. But all you ought to die, Terry Reddick get my attention. I just wish that Terry could go back to the past tip that they on the show here, also by the statement he made. For you to just flip flop to die on the show tonight, it kind of surprised me.
They may evolve.
Yeah, so
like deliberate.
I'm not flip flopping. I'm not flip flopping. My position has been very clear
Yeah,
I
yeah.
never supported.
Okay.
I never supported and all my analysis have been on the issue that the majority black have been.
Anyway, gentlemen, today, like we said earlier on, whether the law fall on the side of the speaker, as Victor just said, those guys are not willing to sit on the gavel of the speaker. And then what the problem is, he had lost confidence, and he cannot even call a quorum to conduct a business. And they have been troubling. And people are calling upon him to resign long time. He had lost confidence. And then also too, the majority black, whether at this age now we can call the so-called majority black, we can label the enemy right now. They are in charge right now. And they are evident, they are come out that they gave the speaker the opportunity to appear for due process. They have communication. I think one of their spokesmen came on air to clarify that they gave the speaker they sent to a documentation, and he refused to come and meet there in Chiba. The speaker blew it out. You know, like we said some time ago, you Mr. Speaker, the law recognizes you. You are in the speaker of the bureau. Walk in the chamber of those guys and try to preside and see whether they'll kick you outside. We said it before. But the speaker also to allow pride to dictate to him. You know, and that's deeply affected him. So for me, I don't care whether due process gave or that. He had lost confidence in equally, and this is the time for the country to move forward. And the Justice Minister is clause under the law of Liberia to interpret the Chief Justice or the Supreme Court opinion, which he did, and the executive forward with it. And I don't see any problem here. The law is the law.
Okay, the law is the law. Sissy, before we
Washington.
All the people that can say the law is the law.
Quick question for Dr. Tutu. Dr. Tutu, wasn't the Justice Minister a party to this conflict? Wasn't he one of the lawyers?
Can I? No, he was asked for his opinion. But here's the thing.
You're a lawyer.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I wanted to make something clear. I know the question you asked, and I'll answer that question because I think it's necessary that we answer that question. But people who have followed me on this platform know that I've always, first for Nati, I didn't want him to be speaker. When he became speaker, I thought that it was a good thing. And his removal, I've always said, Terry and I've always gone back and forth that I said the majority, quote unquote, was illegal. And I still maintain that. My problem here is that there is two interpretations of the Supreme Court ruling, at least the ones that I've listened to that I've tried to read through from legal minds. One being the current Minister of Justice, and one being the former Solicitor General, Tiawan Gonglo. They have two different stuff right there, right? And so for me, I'm trying to learn from that. What I don't ascribe to is, for me, I don't like to assume stuff. Like where I disagree with my brother, Mr. Sandy, on was that the government, the executive funded, right? Because we haven't seen that. But I do give to him, and all the people that said that there were actions, but that's the fact, you haven't seen that funding. But there are actions that the executive took that will show that they acquiesce that action that was taken. For example, the issue of the Mo Ali and all the stuff, I talk about it on this platform that they should not have gone. Even when you are waiting for a Supreme Court ruling, I said they should not have rushed to give the budget to any size. I said that on the platform. I said they should have held the budget until the Supreme Court ruling. When the Supreme Court rule and you have your interpretation from your Justice Minister, then you give it, but you don't go give it one side, then you say, oh, the LPR get it to, the LPR get it to. So I will say here categorically that Fonati Kofa, in the interpretation of the Minister of Justice, has been removed. In my heart, he was not removed the way I think he should have been. I am not a lawyer, however. In my understanding, the way I would have loved for him to be removed again, my feeling is not law, but he should have been allowed to face people, to sit in the chamber where all 6 counts against him were read out. And even if it was a kangaroo court, they were still going to have to vote anyway. Absolutely. Even if it doesn't hold water, they were still going to have to vote and vote him out. For me, that would have been the best way to go. Now, that is me outside of the people chamber telling them how to rule. how to do their things. So it went from initially it was a constitutional issue, and then it went to a political issue. It's back to a constitutional issue. I kept saying this thing has to be resolved politically. Folks didn't listen to now we have a constitutional, and I like to call it a constitutional misunderstanding. Because there are strong legal minds on one side saying that the Supreme Court's ruling affirms Speaker Kofa. And you can point to 39, Article 33 talks about quorum on both sides. And the Supreme Court ruling said any setting, it didn't just say the minority, said any setting that violates that could be quorum, both sides did not have quorum, right? And so, all that ultra-virus stuff that people talking about goes back to that. So for me, like I said on one other platform, I would have really loved for the Supreme Court ruling to have been much simpler. Because instead of solving a problem, the Supreme Court ruling in a country where we can't even read English went ahead and added Latin words to make it even more difficult for us. But how do we move forward? And I just want to be practical. While it is true that I accept that Fonati Kofa, in my heart, is state speaker, the executive and the other half of the House, the Senate, have said that they recognize somebody else. I'm really finding it difficult to see how that gets switched back in a Fonati corner.
It's not.
I don't see that.
I don't see that.
I don't see that. Liberal, you are caught like a piece of cloth between the scissors. You are a biker supporter. You are a friend of Kofa. Your son just sent me a text that he was asking you, and you yet to answer that question. So, do you know the votes that remove Speaker Kofa?
Thank you, Mr. Soul. And I want to say to my colleagues, wait till tomorrow, and you will have a good time to speak as much as you want. The liberal show tomorrow will be a place where no conservative is allowed to express himself freely. Simple as that. But let me say this, Mr. Soul. Well, yes, I agree. We are supporters of President Walker, but we do have the ability to compartmentalize issues. And so this is one of those times that I have to showcase my ability to clearly understand, really understand the total English. Look, it's very sad. But then again, this is what we have. Those who are supposed to help to put Liberia on the map intellectually, they are failing us. This government, as far as I'm concerned, specifically Unity Party, will regret this action. They will regret it because what they have done, and this is not something, what happened to Kofa is not in isolation, to be honest with you. Many of these political so-called guru in Liberia, many of them have been to jail just for common stuff. They go to jail, they come from jail, everybody held him there as a leader. You do this to Kofa, you have already given him legs to stand on. Kofa going to come by 2029. And the kinds of rumor people are hearing, President, we are going to have to clearly draw Kofa to him publicly to say, yes, so even those who are thinking that perhaps he has something to do with it, will understand that he has nothing to do with it. Because Kofa right now, even if he decides to leave, if I were Franti Kofa, like I said, I don't speak to him anymore. I mean, not that I don't want to, but because of the crisis, I stay away. I won't text him. I won't talk to him through this type of medium. If I were Franti Kofa, I won't even say anything. I will have a press conference and tell the Liberian people why they're pushing me out. Because remember now, Franti Kofa on one of those interviews, he said that the people go out and tell the minister there, I'll give you $20 million. The two after I'll come to you, then you give me $2. Kofa can come back and make those statements repeatedly, and he will be believed. Because this, look at the man that can't put his left hand up. What kind of mindset is that? You and Franti Kofa went to the leadership position together,
yeah.
And Franti Kofa defeated you. And this conflict, even if you have the sense that yes, I'm going to be the speaker. You stay in the background and let these people go ahead and do whatever they have to do. And when the time comes, they ask for leadership, you put your hands up. But not for you to come in the back door as though you are not intelligent enough to go in the front door. Unacceptable.
And then do that door. And then do can get in.
Yeah, well, total you pass in the back door that pepper water for Sonin to Wemotoya, that will throw you out. In total, you come through the back door that Sonin to Wemotoya, that's it, we throw you out. But let me just say this here, Mr. So. Look, President Bakai should from the beginning. He knows Liberian politics. He's not a baby. Baka Dana baby. You took Franti Kufa to Italy, and this thing happened. President Bakai is quite aware that Liberians were going to blame him, whether he did it or not. And now you have and the first thing they blame what's his name? Mo Ali. He say he sent money there. They blame Tyler. They say he sent money there. The next thing we know, these two people appearing before the majority. Look, we're not stupid. Let them have it, Flanty. Kufa, let them have it. Let them have it. The same thing I can be advising the Democratic Party here.
Let them have it.
Yeah, let them have it. Let them have it. No, it's on a very serious note. The same thing I can be advising the Democratic Party here in the U.S. Let Trump pick, win, whatever he want. They will mess it up and they will come back to us. Franti Kufa, let them have it. President Baka and Richard Kuhn will not work together. Richard Kuhn will go on a different path. Richard Kuhn's interest is money. And he will see it very quietly. And very soon, President Baka will start regretting that. But then again, that's Liberia. Let's work together. And whatever we have to do, we do it together. The only sad thing is, it's sad for many of us in the diaspora. Because as you walk the street of America as Liberian, every little good thing you see happening in that street, you want that good thing to be happening in Liberia. And if you have your own will, you will want to take it to Liberia. And we don't have the opportunity to do these things. Here we are here, we're coming to sit down on the I call it fly by night sedition, turn sedition, midnight sedition. He said the hosting Samson to I'm the best host of this radio station, Mr. Soul. I'm not undercover sedition. I am an overcover President Baka supporter. Thank you very much for having me tonight. And I'm not too sure if I'm going to allow you on my show tomorrow, unless you promise to take the liberal line. You see, Terry evolving. That's what we call evolving. Terry, I just love you, man. That's it. Good night, folks. Thank you very much.
So what kind of engineering you just put there? I don't want to know.
Okay, guys. We're gonna bring this conversation. We're gonna use 1 minute each to go. In your closing remark, what is the long-term political implication here, be it for the Unity Party or who this thing potentially in the long run want to favor with all of it if it remains as it is, which of course most likely Speaker Kofa seems to be. Is he standing for the rule of law? Is that how he want to be projected by Liberian? Because from what we know that is on the book, the process of impeachment was inconclusive. They just have one side of it. Does that put him over the edge to say, okay, this guy stands for a rule of law, or somebody have circumvented the law? I want 1 minute before we go. Who wants to go first?
I can go. All right. You want me to go? Okay, so first, let me say thanks to all of you for the opportunity for us to team up tonight to discuss Liberia. The message I want to leave with the audience and the panelists tonight: in the 1980s, the 1990s, we lost thousands of human lives. And one of the key causations for people dying in the numbers, properties being destroyed in the numbers, was misruled, failure to adhere to the rule of law. Let me make this self-disclosure. I campaigned aggressively for Mr. Buhari. I campaigned for him not because I love him as an individual, but I thought he had the political pedigree to lead Liberia. What we see happening to this Liberia sets a real bad precedent for the rule of law. No country the world over thrives when people do not respect the laws of the country. That's what's happening in the House of Representatives. And what is happening in the House of Representatives, if not checked, sets a real bad precedent. If the people who make the laws of the country cannot respect the laws, the people who took the oath to uphold the rule of law in the country, including the president, cannot respect the laws of the country, Liberia is headed for a bigger problem in the years ahead.
Okay.
Walker, you can walk away with this. The president is undermining the Liberian democracy. You can quote me on that. President Bouaka is undermining the Liberian democracy. He's a key player. He plotted this crisis in the House of Representatives. He's also funding the executive. It's funding. You can quote me on that. The executive is funding the crisis in the House of Representatives under the watchful eyes of the President Joseph Yuma Bouaka. Thank you.
Thank you so much. President Emeritus, hopefully you can tap in here towards he will rise. But I don't know why people are surprised. We did hear this before. People said they're going to dance with the angel, and you dance with the angel, you do the things of the angel. My last name. Okay. I think the pastor will close this up here because this seems to be tension part. So we need to get some type spiritual quotes here this evening. So the pastor will wait for Pastor Cordier. Namwe.
So thank you very much.
You heard Moses Sandy. Moses Sandy, he's come forward, but we still have people still hanging on straw. They're like the liberals. The liberal would never change his tone, go up, calm down. He will remain liberals, and he will potentially stick this. He will stick his nose everything into this thing to the day. He would never come and do anything here, but that's okay. Go ahead.
No, I like Mr. Sandy's close, and I think he said pretty much what I wanted to say. But I also have to agree with the liberal. I think the way this is being allowed to play out by the UP government, I think they unintentionally are raising the political stature of Mr. Kofa, and I think the former president himself has realized that. Because if you remember in the initial stages of this matter, he was very distant from this whole conflict. We know he was out in Europe or wherever he was when he could have come to rally, to the support of this speaker. He didn't do that. But I think he realizing now that this man is becoming the symbol of the rule of law. And there is something here that I think he's building, unfortunately. I think a lot of people are gravitating towards him. So I think the way this is playing out, both Bouaka and Weah could be the losers out of this. I think Kofa's stature is rising, his political star is rising. There are a lot of people now who feel, he's capable of standing up, to the powers that be. We're seeing all of the intimidation tactics that are being employed by the executive. I mean, some of it, we talked about it, beefing up Combs' security detail, reducing Kofa's security detail, all of these little things that are happening. And yet, he is not intimidated. He's standing up. So, I hope this president, the call that I heard he put out to meet with these parties, I hope he follows through. He needs to help to reduce this tension. I think this thing can be settled. I think the speaker has realized that he's not going to return as speaker. But, and the majority themselves, the 43, they don't have a presiding officer. So there's a stalemate. So somehow somebody needs to get in there and help the both sides, save face. I think that's where we are. And it is not going to, it's not going to go away by itself. We already seen all of the tension rising every time it's a session day or whatever they call it. We see the tension at the Capitol building, and I think it's going to continue in that way. It's going to continue that way until something is done. So I hope this president takes seize of the situation and help to reduce this tension. It is on.
I don't know what next to fix again. The train left the station. This boat has capsized, no life vest, and everybody drowning. Who can swim? Who can swim? You on your own. Dr. Toto.
Yeah, thank you. Let me say special thanks to the fellow panelists for tonight. Good discussion, good issue, and especially the closest in the veteran journalist. I always call it the veteran journalist.
Thank you, Mr.
Where we were growing up those days, like in the 80s, those were the voices.
Thank you.
Oh man, stop calling your friend old man. Stop that.
Man, I'm an old man now. I'm an old man now.
Yeah, those are the voices that have to make us.
Thank you, Dr. Taylor.
I have to draw off to television and
radio.
But much they said the issue about Liberia, for some of for me, as a belief in a political leader, T1 Gonglo, we supported him, and then later on we joined the Unity Party movement to support President Boyka, and we still, for me, I still hope, I get hope in President Boyka leadership. And I think he's gonna make the best decision for Liberia. But when it comes to the Supreme Court issue, the issue of the House of Representatives, what been going on, it is something that been established in our house from leadership to leadership, and we have not been able to cut or how Liberia call it, cut the heel of the snake. Every time, there are certain caliber of people in our house continue to create a type of tension to remove speakers until at the end of the day it becomes a political issue. I saw a post from somebody, they said that one of the majority black guy, Koga, want to run for senator for Dimba County.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Somebody posted, if you let Koga the way he going to the Senate, going to remove Dominican.
Oh my goodness.
So that's
a good one, man.
Yeah, so people say you have to prevent him from that because he go there.
The virus.
Yeah, the very carry virus behind you.
But anyway, we show to that.
All right, thank you so much. Okay, Terry.
Yeah, Mr. So.
Well, I thought you said the pastor closing tonight again.
Oh,
I don't want Prince Finger Prayer. So because the majority black already.
No. Okay, no, we gotta go. Yeah, okay, let's see. Let's see.
Yes, it's a good. That must see your brother go.
Look, it is nice having all of you. I got a headache, I swear. I gotta go sleep. This has been fun. But look, one thing categorically, I supported T1 Gonglo. In the runoff, I supported Joseph Nyemabuaka. If it was a repeat, I would do it. And it was the same CDC people that were playing Blade and playing Lulu, our governance system. And the debate in the grave, I would vote for the debate over the CDC. I would do it over and over and over. I would not even second guess. So that is not even up for argument. Having said that, I think that what separates us from anarchy, I said that yesterday on another platform, is our respect and adherence to the rule of law. What stops somebody from coming to your house to take your roof off of your house to build market kitchen? It is their fear and adherence to the rule of law, that there will be actions. whenever that goes away, whether perceived or real, it is very dangerous for democracy and for civilization. Again, I said whether it's perceived or it's real, because sometimes certain things are perceived as being injustices and they lead to chaos. This is where leadership and mature leadership has to come in. Now, on the issue of Funati Kofa, somehow riding some kind of highway, I'm begging you, man. Same way they make, I don't know that people were stealing. When he was deputy speaker, he overran his budget twice. When he was in the house all the time, he announced all the time, people not doing anything. When he became speaker, the people start asking the people for a kickback. Look, this thing, whether Funati rise, the thing is going to depend on whether he has the political maturity and whether he has the group of people set up, the machinery to run this thing. Remember, he would have arrested this issue. He failed massively at it. Would he be able to be ahead of this narrative? Because there's already a narrative for me that he wasn't fighting for anything because of the perks that come with the speakership office. He won't lose all that millions of dollars that they get in the speaker office. So if Liberian people are going to election money based on their fight for the rule of law, they want to be president today. They beat that man, they don't people in everything. Remember that we get in America. So you know the other thing. 6 years in politics is a long time. When they take a man from the speaker position, they take all the card in for him. I guarantee you, I'm gonna be getting in the wilderness there. You get called back. It will be like the voice in the wilderness with nobody listening to. Yeah. So having said that, I still hope that the president, even though we all say that these are separate branches, but that the president would actually find a way to give an honorable exit to Speaker Kofa. Let me Speaker Kofa. An honorable exit, a respectable exit. Whatever that is, they can determine what that is. But because I don't see how the executive and the Senate can flip back to Kofa. I do, however, see how you give an honorable strategic exit. And that is what I'll be looking for, to see the maturity that comes from the executive branch of government, to see how they can accommodate honorably an exit for Speaker Kofa.
I don't know how the Black Dragon can prevent the death of Bruce Lee now. So I don't know where honorable that were in it. But anyway, okay, let's listen to Terry. Terry, I think the house was quite impressive tonight. Let's hear you.
I'll close here.
You are?
I'll close here.
All the one you're talking about,
you say you are not close.
I was making my comment.
Well, I already consider it as a close. So the comments still not finished already. So tomorrow
the truth be told, what pissed me off was that when the RLJ people left the place, were all sending me small things all the way because
they put me on a business. Me and my man DJ will be playing our music. DJ Blue. Like in a whole party.
And they carried DJ.
These boys
they didn't pay no time when they were doing all that.
No, they didn't. All the way I've been talking Tabata here for them. They didn't send me small thing. They said they're leaving RLJ. But Mr. So to the issue, I've been saying all along. I never flip. I've been saying, Labour can attest to it. You yourself can attest to it. When Richard Kuhn was elected as speaker, I came on the show, we discussed the issue. I told you I don't recognize Richard Kuhn. And to me, he's not the speaker. You understand? Just the other day, we were arguing here. I did somebody, I said, I don't recognize Richard Kuhn as speaker. I recognize J. Funati Kofa as speaker. I said that over and over on the show. You understand? My prediction did not mean that I took side with the majority black. I gave analysis on predictions I gave predictions based upon my analysis and based upon what I saw happening in the past. And that is why I put forth an alternative long ahead to Honorable Kofa that he need to resign, because from the look of things, when he could not maintain the majority within a certain period of time, I knew that it was over for him. It was just a matter of time. But what really hurt me was when the Justice Minister yesterday took the stand that he took, and yesterday I said it here on the show that that the Justice Minister was in error. If Labour can remember, if you go back and watch the video, you will see I said it. I said the Justice Minister was in error. So I tried to be a little bit neutral, and that is why some of the guys from CDC camp, Elvis tonight, who were beating me that I'm a fake pastor, or that he here now supporting me tonight. But because they don't understand my stand. But it's okay. That is what it is. But to be honest, Mr. So, like I said last night, I want to reiterate that if President Boka do not govern well, if you don't put a house in order, and Sisi said it right, we have no regret voting for President Joseph Yima Boka. If history repeat, we will do that over President Weah. But I will not vote for President Boka over a Tewon Gonglo. I will not vote for President Boka over Alexander Cummings. I'm not going to do that. But if it is between President Boka and President Weah, I will vote for President Boka 100 times over because I saw what happened under President Weah. You understand what I'm saying? So I just want to say this to President Boka. If God gave you leadership and you misuse power because you feel you can, the result will hurt. Thank you.
Okay, Liberal, you will have to make a commitment here. The pastor was crystal.
But that was the benediction.
But let me ask the pastor now, and let me show my other uncovered sedition side now.
Look at it.
So you see President Baga one thing what he doing a few times. You see here that President Joe Weah win that see
Joe Weah is irredeemable.
President Weah has 6 years. We saw it in 6 years.
Okay, let's multiply that. What happened? What is happening, President Baga? Let's pretend and multiply 6 year time. What you think? Just say you the mathematician here.
As it stands, if history repeats itself, I will go with President Boka. As it stands,
the minute engineer, you know that not how we can scale things. You can't just scale one thing and multiply by 6 years.
No, Mr. So, thank you very much. It's a wonderful show, and I want to thank all of the guests. The panelists here tonight. That this is what we do here on LeBron Public Radio. I think we try to enlighten the audience. We might not agree with each other, but that's the beauty of it. And I want to thank you very much as the CEO of this program. You've been doing a wonderful, wonderful job. We the majority black, and you want me to put my majority black picture up again tonight? Okay, I'll do that one tomorrow. We the majority black. We will. Well, I will tell Cesar. Okay, Cesar, I will not bust our secret. I will tell Cesar since
we got a Hilton in because we ain't got our LJ, so we got a Hilton
in. We left our LJ.
Mr. So, thank you very much for organizing such a beautiful show. We appreciate it.
Koga on his way to the Senate. You will know how to do the majority. Everyone, because when he and Kumpo together and start impeaching the woman, they will know.
But Cyril, I saw the men t-shirt and all people wearing a t-shirt.
The first thing they know, I young this hello, you know, I Koga. I gave you 2 weeks. So
there's already a t-shirt. There's already a t-shirt up for him.
Yeah, they have a t-shirt already up for him.
One of the other videos is, my man, don't talk plenty. I mean, we got our body. Don't talk plenty. Yeah,
but man, even with the very Johnson.
All right, guys. I think this is we'll wait and see what happens, but I don't know what else. Some will say, yeah, and this liberal and his ally here, no, the executive shouldn't do this. And that would cool.
I finish praising you. It's you to lay state now. You come to can't start all kind of things.
Go bring your order. I was surprised you talk about it. Go bring the order.
The man came by the man said a court rule that all of our action in our audit committee is control virus. We should return to status quo ante.
Liberia is a mess. You know, if people are serious and not struggling like bro, it's gonna be a fun place to live. Good night, guys.
Good night, guys.
All right, guys. Thank you. It was a pleasure. Thank you. Pastor, thank you, my brother.
Oh, look, President, always, if you have time, we always hear Monday, evening.
Sure.
Only the liberal, working with the liberal is a little painful because if you don't speak his language, then of course you and he can.
Then you'll be in trouble.
Out there, once you have time, just jump in.
Sure.
We always agree and disagree, and it's
I'll
just
keep you posted.
okay. Thank you so much.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yeah.
As 12 years of vice president, that he can do well. There are many, many challenges. He has first to unite the country, because as you mentioned, the election was very, very close. Now he has to bring the country together. He has to choose a team, and to surround himself with a good team that will be willing to work for the Liberian people and not for themselves. What happened, George, we as administration, this is from our assessment, is that because we was, I think, ruling the country as a celebrity. He was not taking into account the people, his cabinet, what they were doing or what they were not doing. And some people say, I was reading an editorial by the Daily Observer that perhaps he didn't like to make decisions. We did not like to make decisions. And so everybody was doing their own thing. Everybody in the cabinet was doing their own thing, people, particularly corruption. People who did something wrong will find their way back into the system again, like a recycle. They will come back into the system. He had to make a decision. He should have made a decision to cut them out, but he did not. So let's hope that Boakai, who is an experienced politician, Liberians are hoping. But I just hope that also he should speak to the people, not to raise too much of expectations of him. Because there's a lot that he has to accomplish.
And, you know, as you say, I've heard the first 5 years of being president, those are the difficult years. After that, it's smooth sailing. And of course, you know, winning is one thing, then running the country is where the real challenge lies. James Butty, what a pleasure to speak to you. Thank you so very much. Same.
Yeah, that was Jim Botte, and they're quite correct. Winning is one thing, and the governing aspect is another thing. And sometimes, you know, once you are not in the driving seat, trust me, you kind of get it going. Well, folks, I want to thank you so much. Let me see here.
Even beginning with myself, we'll declare our assets and want to make sure that this is well known. The purpose of coming to government, to know that it's public service. And if you are not ready to serve the public, you can go elsewhere. But we want to make sure that we start on a clear note that the people of our country stood on line, they protected the votes, not to bring a team again that will do the same thing that the other people are doing or worse. So it's a clear message, declare your assets, make sure that we are prepared to audit the outgoing government so that they tell the Liberian people of their stewardship, and to make sure that we start on a footing where people know that they come to serve the public and not themselves. If they don't understand that, they actually fall where it is.
Mr. President, like you talked about asset declaration starting from yourself and the people who work with you, as well as the outgoing administration. How do you plan to avoid the semblance of targeting people? Because some people will say these are politically motivated to tarnish their reputation or to go against.
We're going to leave it at holding politicians accountable in their own words. We will audit, we will publish, we declare our assets. It's a tough thing. How's this happening now? Well, you decide. We want to thank you so much. Your comments, your tweets, your interactions, the engagement was quite fascinating. And we do this for the good of the country to have this high-call conversation. And I see, and everybody has the right to express their views, their opinions. And I believe people are doing it in the context for the good of the country. And we hope and hope that national governments and people that are in authority, they are taking into account, because we know what happens when we went down this road when laws of the land are not respected and people try to have their own way. It's dangerous. And we hope that That's how things start. It's with the red. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. We don't know down the road. After one more year, another group will come out as a majority black. Now you have dignified, you give credence to this group. So you think another group of 51 comes, then of course, the surpass the number of the 40 something. You will have to. So then we want to see again how the Supreme Court want to give an interpretation. So this is why when things starting, you make sure it's properly handled. It doesn't matter where the ball drops, but for the good of the country. Until then, folks, we want to thank you so much for hanging out with us this evening. God's willing, same time, same station. So we're going to be back here tomorrow. The Liberal Progressive going to be here, and of course, Friday, by God's willing, we'll be back here again to discuss more about Liberia. So let's keep praying for our country, for the good of the country, because when the country is doing well, we all will be doing well. This sort of financial pressure that mounts on Liberians outside of the country will be lessened, and that's our ultimate goal, and the country will be a good country. Have a pleasant evening, and bye-bye from my end. Again, so you want to be part of our talking point, our conversation here as a contributor, analyst, let us know. We always have room because we feel when it comes to Liberia, the conversation of Liberia, no one should be left behind. Have a pleasant night. Bye-bye.